Well, less than a minute late. Hello, everyone. I hope you're enjoying your Thursday. Hopefully, it is Thursday. And I already see some comments. At the same time, if you can hear me and you just don't see a face moving the mouth and not saying anything, it'll be good to know. Hello, Dean, Rob, Switch Media Tube, Sohrab. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special episode. All our episodes are special, but this is more special because yesterday we had a release, and we now have, amongst other of our Maxon products, in terms of Cinema 4D 2025.1, that offers some very, very interesting new and improved features. And Roy, Pablo, welcome to the chat. Benoit, everyone. And yeah, let me go quickly. The Badger, Le Badger. I'm going to go quickly through housekeeping. And as usual, I'm scatterbrained and I will make mistakes. So I'm counting on you to scream with capital letters in the chat and tell me what I'm doing wrong. And Jesper as well. So let me bring up the screen. The screen. Dances for Peas. Hello, welcome to the chat. And let me start copying and pasting all sorts of things in the chat. So this is our welcome page, and you can see there's a cyber sale offer that applies to new customers. Contact Maxon for any details, and you can go to this page here, which you will find. I need to get all my links. When you have 6 monitors in front of you, this is what happens. Let's go to the comments and let me paste in this link that will get you to this page. And this page is a very useful page because you can go to the Maxon events, you can get a t-shirt, more on that later, and you can go directly to the YouTube channel of the Maxon training team and Cineversity, and of course go and ask your question. And yeah, you can also sign up and be informed for any things that are happening. So on the Maxon events page, you will see all sorts of events that are happening. And talking about events, I'm going to bring up my face over here. Don't miss next week. So next week, Wednesday the 11th, Ellie, Darren, and I are going to do some sort of what's new in Cinema 4D 2025 and Redshift Cinema 4D 2025.1 and Redshift, I think it's 2025.2. I'll leave this up to you. And on Thursday, the 12th, next week of December, right? Ellie and I are going to show you some rather interesting things about some new features that relate to particles. Because we're sort of entering a new era now where there is a new particle nodes modifier. So you can use the Cinema 4D scene nodes to control your particles, which opens up quite a huge new area of experimentation and functionality. And I'm going to try with Ellie in that hour to give you sort of an overview. But we are planning, and this is crucial, we are planning for the very near future, within the next couple of months, various features and tutorials about with the subject of nodes. So yeah, we'll get to that a bit later. I just wanted to emphasize next week and make sure you follow social and you are informed about what's going on, so you know exactly where to find us. So next week, Wednesday 11th, it's what's new in Cinema 4D and Redshift, and Thursday the 12th, it's particle nodes modifier and custom attributes for particles. If you know, you know. So let me go back to my full screen here. And of course, the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel is the channel where all these live shows are hosted after the fact. You can watch them on both of our channels, but when it comes to hosting, and Dr. Sassy is doing us a great favor of adding the timestamps and providing us with comments. And I do want to go on the record and thank Dr. Sassy for highlighting a slight mistake I did last week when a user asked to how to control cloners by index ID. And that's why we need Dr. Sassy always in our side next to us, because he will catch anything we miss and point it out. And it gave me the opportunity to make a quick tip. Last week's quick tip was about that. So from deep in my heart, I thank Dr. Sassy for supporting us with his immense knowledge on more than Cinema 4D, I promise you that. So back to this Maxon YouTube channel, where the content is, well, too much to handle. You could retire now and just watch Maxon videos on the Maxon YouTube channel and enjoy the rest of your life with knowledge and entertainment. And of course, the best digital sculpting software in the industry being ZBrush. Please do yourselves a favor and go to the Maxon ZBrush YouTube channel and learn how to use it. Now available for the iPad. You can be artists sitting in your couch or wherever else you like to enjoy sitting. Now, if you go to the first link here, you see we have our free t-shirt. And for the month of December, the code is, and this is a copy paste directly into the chat, Boolean Rhapsody. I do not write these, but they're all so funny. So Boolean Rhapsody, because of the new Boolean generator in Cinema 4D 2025.1, which yesterday, I don't know if you caught it on Cineversity, we published two tutorials, one about the Boolean and one about a new function in the inverse kinematics tag that allows for extremely simple setups for robots and mechanical rigging, something that required clamps and stuff like that in the past. So go watch those tutorials. They're available for anyone that has a subscription. Excellent. And of course, talking about Cineversity, here it is, Kinematic Limbings, how to rig robots. And it's quite extensive. It's 16 minutes because it not only explains that particular aspect of this new functionality, which funny enough is one button. And it's amazing how much magic can be hidden by one little Boolean switch. But the extremely talented developers at Maxon just made it so much simpler to make these kind of rigs. And I explained how to set up your rig and do certain things so you can have 100% success. And the other one is the new Boolean, where you can take a bite out of a cookie. And that's an interesting one as well. More tutorials will follow. The next few weeks, the quick tips are going to be relating to Cinema 4D 2025.1 features. Starting today, let me see, what else do I have here? And of course, go watch my particle tutorials. Some of these things can be done differently now in 2025.1. We'll see which ones we're going to revisit. And that said, I'm going to bring my beautiful face up here again. And don't forget, let's go to the banners. I'm just putting up this link, which is the link that leads to the main page. Just checking it out to make sure it is the page I showed you earlier. And if you want to download any projects, I don't have any projects for this particular Master Trainer session, but generally always look in the description text below the YouTube video. And if there are any files available, you will find a link to those files down in the description. And what else? I'm just going to put this up there. Boolean Rhapsody. So if anyone doesn't have access to the chat for whatever reason, you can actually see it and type it. Don't forget to preface any questions with capitalized question so I can distinguish it from the general comments about my hair. And this is my handle on Twixer, Twitter, X, Twixer. I need to trademark that, Twixer. It's I'm a genius. My IQ is inverse correlated to the amount of hair I have, actually, perfectly. So, okay, so let me close a window and bring up Cinema 4D here. And there are some questions I picked from the forum, and I'm going to take a quick look at the chat after I find my mouse. And let's say a few more hellos here. So where are we? That was Jesper, Dancer for Peas. Mate, I have something for my friend Mate over here. And what else do we have? Let's start marking these things. And I need to remind myself what Mate asked me. I think Mate was the one about the lipstick, if I'm not. And I'm going to attempt to do something. So I do have an image somewhere here, which I'm going to bring in. Just going to drag an image in Cinema 4D, and it will sort of open. Oh, this is from a quick tip I did. So this is the image that Mate gave me, and I think it's these debossed letters. How do we do this kind of effect? And he kindly provided me with a model of lipstick and some text. So let's go and see some potential methods, and it depends on the shapes you have and so forth. So in this particular case, we have a cylindrical shape, right? Which means that, well, we can get away with just making it properly cylindrical. So I've added a bend deformer to it. And you can see I've already rotated it a bit. And this allows us to control. You can see with the arrows, I'm just going to insert a few more details. You can see that the big arrow tries to bend towards the small arrow. Right? This is the big arrow towards the small arrow, which means that I need to rotate it this way if I wish to sort of rotate this around the object. And more on that a bit later. So you can see that the rotations can be a bit dodgy. Number one, make sure you keep length to keep sort of the length of the object. The other thing is the size and placement of your bend deformer is very important for these things. So it's nice to have it nice and tight on your object. So let's turn off this the lipstick and focus on some of these. So this is a game of random. So you move one if it's the one you want to move. If the value changes the one you want it to, there you go. I got lucky. It was the first one. Usually it's the third one. Just make it comply slightly to what you're doing. And if you want it to be purely cylindrical, one of the tricks you can do is you move your deformer to half your object and you make sure the mode is unlimited. And this will bend it on both sides. Okay. So let's bring back the lipstick because I just want it to comply sort of to the surface of what I'm doing. Now, another thing you could do is at least make sure that the scale of your object, because we're going to do a, a Boolean operation or something like that. I'm just going to make sure that I have enough depth to cut into the other object. And then I'm going to move it around and do some funky stuff. So you can see that now. Why has that person moved over there? Why has that moved over there? But anyway, I don't care. Just going to move it back over there. I may have done an unsolicited undo. There we go. So just make it like this. Let's put it here. Let's bend it a bit more. And what we're going to do is give it a shot with a new Boolean generator. Okay. Now, if you can see that this is taller, which means that if I take the object inside. Now, I want to rotate the object, but keep my deformer in place. And the trick to do that is to use the alternative deformer application. Select this, add a null on top, pressing Alt, not Shift, because it makes it a child, and make them siblings. This allows you to rotate this, and you can see that it retains that, that bending. The other thing you need to make sure is that you have enough points that define the object. Here, the surfaces are N-Gons. To do that, let's see if, I don't have the actual one, but in any case, I'll show you a little trick in a second. So I want to make sure that these letters are penetrating my object. You can see they're going inside. And let's now try the new Boolean generator, which is called Boolean. If for any reason you want to find the old one, press Shift-C, type Boole, and it will be legacy Boole. So everything you have been doing can already still works. It's just that we have a new thingy going on. And the default is union. If you double click here, you will change to the next mode, which is subtract. And you have your little subtraction. And of course, you see these little artifacts. There's one little thing you can do, high quality normals. This is because of the N-Gons, because we're bending the N-Gons. But in a nutshell, this would be sort of the way you would go about doing something like this and just controlling how much penetration you're going to get inside just by conforming it to the surface. Now, this is an ideal edge case where the object is quite cylindrical, right? Makes it much easier. Um, what if this object was a bit more irregular? And for that, we can try some other deformers, which need a bit more setup, if you know what I mean. So, um, yes, Ilya says displacement would be more suitable. And the answer is yes. It's one of the methods I was planning to show as well, where you can use this with a texture and so forth. So we're going to get to this. Um, let's see. So what was I saying? I'm very easily distracted. So oh yeah. So there's another deformer here, which not many people use, but it could be extremely, extremely useful. And that is the surface deformer. And it has two modes, the projection and the UV mapping mode. So it requires, so if I take this and put it on the extrude text, so let me rotate this back to its normal coordinates for now and do this. You drop in here the object you require to deform. Now you'll see some rather interesting stuff going on. You just go here and you say, put the lipstick in here, and you can see this doesn't look extremely good. There are a couple of things. We need to make sure that the object is it is oriented on the Z. It's oriented on the Z. I wonder why it's not. Well, anyway, let's move forwards and we'll see. The other thing you need to be aware is that certain settings here that there you go. So is it YZ or is it XZ or is it XY? There you go. It's always one. The UVs are generally sometimes flipped. So I may need, so this is the size, providing, I need to show this. If you go to the UV edit, you do need to have some sort of proper UV layout. Now, this, although it's not as proper as I would like it to, it appears that it's working for what we're doing. If we have any problems, we may revisit it. But generally, it may require you to do some sort of unwrapping. If you want to see how to unwrap that, just post it in the text and I'll do it later. I'm going to focus on the surface deformer. Now, we have the various scales. So I can go, I think I can go -1 on this or minus 0.25. There you go. So make sure if you, this has to do the name, sorry, the scaling here has to do with the UV coordinate. So this will scale on the whole X, and this is now inversed a quarter of the Y. So you can make this wrap in all sorts of different ways. So you can adjust the size of this. And yeah, there are ways to put it on an object that will, allow you to make it comply, even though it's not cylindrical. In this case, it's not cylindrical, and you can move it around up and down, and that's the movement happens in UV coordinates. You will find places like these places here where you can see the UV switch somewhere else because it does use the UV data exclusively. If you dive into Cineversity, I think I did something with this. Or if you go to my YouTube channel, YouTube /@Noseman, I think I did something like this with growing structures on objects. Search for growing structures because I'm showing a method to use this because it does require some other details. But this will allow you to do an equivalent thing by subtracting it from the mesh. Okay. Now, let me see if there are any questions on these things. I'm going to go to the comments here, bring them up, because maybe there are some questions. And at the same time, just saying hello to Jay, Mirko, Julia. 3Pixel asks, is it okay to use Mac? Yes, but I have a Mac Pro from 2010. I'm just one of those people. It's fully functional, but it doesn't run the latest versions of Cinema 4D because of the processors. But any modern Macintosh would work. And a lot of people are extremely happy with the performance and experience with the Mac. Let's see. Oh, I want to show this. Noseman from Demis. Your plugins still work with all versions of Cinema 4D from the day you shared them until now. They are lifesavers. We wait for more. Well, I don't write my plugins. Right? Let's make that clear. I have creatures showing up to my door and saying, here's a plugin. That's a metaphor. So I don't know if we're going to do any more, because maybe there's a way to do many of these things using scene nodes. It remains to be seen. And then you don't need a plugin. Don't care about updates and all that nice stuff. So let me bring this up again. Sivan says hi. Tote says hello. And let's see. So Andrew, everyone else. Question about particles. Maybe we address it later from Elon. I have a question about particles. I try to make concrete pore simulation. Yeah, I read about that, and I'm going to touch upon it. I don't have extremely good news, but a bit better, I would say. Jarvik, good afternoon. Hello, Sharon. What's up? Thompson X. What else? Yerubreen Archive. Frank. Okay. I'm going to stop saying hi to everyone. Hi, everybody. Right? Hi, everybody. Let's see. Let's see where we are. I'm just marking some things here. And let's go to the... let's see. Oh, this is a follow-up. Managed to do it with one piece, but when I clone it, the bending failed. How can I bend it if it's in the cloner? Okay, so you want more than one object, right? That's what you wanted to do. So let's go all the way back. I'm undoing here rapidly to go all the way back to the Boolean here where we had the letters. There we go. So we want more than one of these, okay? So let's take a look how we can do that. Well, first of all, let's move the bend out of here. Let's create a few of these copies, because I assume you tried to copy it with the bend. That will work for certain things, but let's create a cloner here. Let's see Z1, and let's say we have 3 here, and they're very close. So let's assume this is what I'm trying to bend. Well, you just bend this again. Let's put it in no, go here, and here it is. So this will produce the same result. You treat this as a single object. Now, talking about object, I really want to talk about this. Do we have text splines here? Let me write something. Now, I did a tutorial, but it's very important to remember a few things about text extrusions and about deforming. All right, so I'm going to put it on Z. So let's assume I want to extrude this. Okay, sorry, I want to bend this. All right, and again, I want to bend the long arrow towards the short arrow. So this would be the bend. Put it under a null and drag it and put it here. Let's go here and do that. There we go. It goes backwards as I expected it to. I told you I'm a genius. So, or very lucky. Sometimes it's indistinguishable which one of the two applies. So you can see the problems we're getting here is that deformers by definition make it a bit shallow. Oops, not the size, but the extrude offset. Okay, a deformer moves points. That's what it does. If there are no points, then look at this, for example. This here bends as a one straight line because it just moves one of the 2 points. You can see that's it. And the more you bend it, the more you're going to have issues with your N-Gons. So we need to create a situation where all these points are available on all surfaces that are going to be deformed. And you need to do that in a couple of places. In the text spline, you have to go down here to the spline, this little thing. and use something like natural. My favorite is subdivided. Now, subdivided uses a different parameter for the rounding parts, which is the same as adaptive, and it will be the angle, and a different for the straight line. So you can control how many subdivisions, and I think I made it a bit too small, 3. If you drag it, it may go to 0, and then it needs a bit of time to recover. So that's number 1. You need all those little lines. And you can see now this bends nicely. Look at that. Now, the other thing is that the N-Gons, they appear good, and you won't have many problems, especially if you go and you use an angle and area weighted, but still, you can see those lines. An N-Gon is still a bit of, you know, a headache for these kind of things. So let me make this invisible. What you could do is change, and this happens in the extrude, in the caps, the tessellation of your caps. So you can use something like a regular grid, and you can do a quad dominant, and you can make this 3, for example, and now you get all these things. You can use Delaunay, you can use all that, but this is now enough to create a model that bends without any artifacts. And you can actually do some extreme bending now because there's enough topology to support that, okay? And if you're not happy, you just increase your various segments. But look at that, everything is bending nicely. So remember to do that before you do any deformations. But this is how you would do it with a cloner. Now, if you have a bit more complex hierarchies under here and directly they don't work, just don't forget to go and add a connect object, make sure that you don't have weld on it, and there you go. So it will treat all this as one object. If you make this editable, you will see it's just one single mesh, and internally this is what happens. So this would be. So let's talk a bit about, and I know, taking up nearly half the show, but I think it's a very interesting subject. We could do this with some sort of deformation. And what I'm going to do here is let's remove this and remove that. Just leave the model here and do it at render time, or sometimes not render time. Sometimes you can actually do it using a displacer, right? So go to your, and it's the same process if you do it in Redshift. So you can get a displacer, and it asks you what you want to displace. I don't know. Let's go and make. What shall I make? I'm going to go and make some tiles, and I think they're in the surfaces tiles, the old class, and you can see that providing you have enough subdivision, and if you want that enough subdivision, what you can do is put this under a subdivision surface object, and let's put it under null and drag it here. So now you have much better fidelity. And internally, when you do displacements in Redshift, this is what it does. It subdivides, and it then moves things around. So this is a way to do it. Just create a black and white image with your text and do the tiling and all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting that you can place it like a material and then use it. Just in case it's not very clear how this is done in Redshift, let me very quickly do this. First of all, you do need a Redshift object. Did they change that? They may have changed it at some version. You just override the geometry and make sure you have tessellation on and displacement enabled. Okay, so what this does is similar to Cinema 4D's render time subdivision that used to happen with the, I need to remember what it was called. It's such a long time since I've used this. So if you create a material, a standard Cinema 4D material, in the displacement over here, you can see it's got sub-polygon displacement, and it allows you to subdivide, right? This happens at render time. This is exactly the same as Redshift doing the subdivision. And you just create a Redshift material, apply it to this, and again, make sure that you have this set with the appropriate settings, and you do a displacement. There you go. And the displacement, because it creates a normal anyway, you put it here, and let's just drive it with some tiles and see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? Even though they're red and all that, it doesn't really matter. And start IPR. And what else do I need to do here? We have the range and the scale. Let's increase the scale, and your maximum displacement needs to be as large as whatever, at least as large as your scale. So I'm going to make it 50 max. And where am I failing now? This should be as simple as this. Definitely doing a mistake here, but we'll find out. Let's try a different method of rendering. Click on that. Oh yeah, I need to turn this off and turn this on. Don't forget about that. There you go. And let me see what I have here. I have geometry, I have displacement, displacement scale. Did I apply the material? I didn't put it in the, I put it in the bump map. Holy moly. Thank you very much. Displacement. Well, we're all human. This happens. Are we? So thank you very much. Let me call out Dean. Thank you very much. I just got totally sidetracked. So you just connect your displacement there. And if you have any texture with letters and all that, and the fidelity of this, so the height, it's controlled by that value over here. So you can see that it grows as I grow. And this, I guess, is in centimeters. Right, there you go. And you can make it negative, or you can control it using the colors. And the subdivision level is controlled over here, where how many maximum subdivision is 6, and it has adaptive and all that. But you can control it to a great degree to get better fidelity. So that will be the displacement method. And again, thank you very much, Dean, for awakening me from my mistake. So that will be pretty much, a collection of ideas of how you would do something like that. Okay, so let's see. There's one here I'm going to test. Is there a way to change the axis location on a cloner object so that when you use the scale parameter, it scales from the base rather than the middle of the object? It's wherever the axis of the object is. So let me go back to my startup layout. So a cube or any primitive, because the axis is in the middle, it's just going to scale it from the middle. But if you still want it to be a procedural object, what you could do is get a null, move it down. Right, let's move it down there and put this into a cloner. And what this should do, if I use a plane effector with scale on, scale, and a uniform scale, it should scale from the base. As you can see, it's scaling from the base. So that will be the way you would do this. If you don't want the primitive to be a mesh object. If it is a mesh object, you can remove this and make it editable. You can always move the axes using this little button, the axes, move it down and turn it off, put it here, and this is going to do an equivalent thing from the base. So that's how you would do that. Okay. Displacement more suitable, yes, and we showed that. And let's go down a bit. New Boolean, yes, it is a very good piece of technology. The projection deformer projects from a point, and as far as I know, we don't have spherical projection. I don't know if we can project in the opposite direction. Maybe, do an experiment and tell me what happens. So, good question from Totes. Does each method to create the recessed text have different consequences regarding rendering times? Although technically it may, the differences are going to be rather trivial, excluding the displacer method. So if you're using modeling methods, to do that, the mesh is the mesh, right? The only addition to render time would be if your mesh is made of glass and it's got a lot of reflections, and now you have more topology and more reflections happening and more refractions happening. Yeah, but in terms of the general concept, doing a Boolean and rendering a mesh doesn't have any meaningful impact. With a displacement method, it's different because it subdivides the model. And depending on how much subdivision you have, how many of these displacements you have, and so forth, then you may have differences. And again, it has to do with the types of materials you use and so forth. So depending on the method, you may have either very little to significant, and it all depends on the situation. Okay, let's see. The feather system has an issue where if you make some rotation spline, or the spline suffers some kind of distortion, you'll have to contact me on Twixer and send me a very simplified file, just a simple line with one feather or that, because yeah, in order to address that. Let's see. Yeah, James, the new Boolean script, I still find it hard to bevel and make the intersected edges rounded. Yes, that is not exclusive to the generator itself, right? It's it's one of those things where the creating bevels on tight geometry, because if your geometry is clean, you won't have so many problems. But when you have small triangles, the bevel clips, and that is what causes these problems. But a great suggestion, using round edges in Redshift will give you, to a good extent, the proper result. Yeah, Delaunay. That's great. Well, talking about Delaunay, Arun, thank you for the suggestion. Sometimes I've heard people say, "Oh, I want a a plane that has random triangulation." Well, a quick shortcut is to create a rectangle and extrude it with 0 length, and just go to caps and add Delaunay. Just make sure that it has enough subdivision segments. So you go to uniform, and there you have it. So you can make this editable, and you have this, and you can you can increase the number here. You can change the sort of density of it, and this is uniform density. That's one way of doing it. Another way would be, which sometimes I use, you can actually use your right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a plane for this, because I do want some polygons here. All right, let's have some polygons. And what you could do is do a polygon reduction. And the polygon reduction, in its attempt to reduce it, will create triangles. So again, you can increase these. It's going to take a few milliseconds, and you can sort of play around with these numbers and see what happens with this sort of triangulation. So if this is what you require, there are a couple of ways you can use. Okay, so where am I? Where was I? I just want to show it. I don't hide from my mistakes. I had a displacement connected to the bump. So right. Linear drift. How to map one texture on a cube completely wrapped around the whole thing and not mapped, tiled on its face. One map around the whole thing. This is it. It has to be the material that does that, right? But my challenge is, try and draw that. How would it look? Or try and get some wallpaper or some wrapping paper and wrap it in a way that it's seamless. If it's seamless what you want, otherwise you can just use UVW coordinates. Depending on what exactly you mean, the answer could be very, very different. So hit us on the forum or hit me on Twixer with some sort of example of what you're trying to do, and we can address this in the future. You're welcome. Okay. This is a good one. How do you sculpt the face? Banu, let me put my face up here. If I could sculpt a face, I'd be doing it all day. I cannot sculpt a face to save my life. If someone says, if you sculpt a face, we're going to give you trillions of dollars, I can't do it. So go watch the ZBrush tutorials and contact the ZBrush team, and maybe they can give you some tips. And go and check out traditional sculpting. That's where my problem is. I know how to push and pull points. Nose you pull, eyes you sort of push, and you do that kind of stuff. But I can't create a proper looking face. I do not understand the anatomy of a face or anything like that. So traditional sculpting is the way to go. Okay. Let's see this one. I don't know what it says. Not to interrupt. Well, you interrupted already. I was having trouble exporting an animated model into glTF file. So if I was able to do a workaround, but I still lost texture, color, and all that. The glTF will do what the glTF will do. I haven't had use for it because I don't know where people use glTFs. So this is unfortunately one of my blind spots, where certain industries that use some very specific things, I'm not very well aware of that specific industry and what their requirements would be. So I I wouldn't know what the answer would be. What we lost texture, color, and the animation after the export. Um, well, pointed in my direction. Thank you, tech support. Yeah, it maybe. But what I would do is, if I had a file, and then I would ask other people inside Maxon that sort of do this, because these are two very different formats, right? Not everything is transferable from one format to the other. So if you can contact me and on Twixer and send me something, but simple. Don't send me any production files and all that. So I can see what it is. Maybe move it forwards. I'm sorry for not being able to answer your question. Um, and yeah, just contact me. Let's see. We looked at the cube. Oh, a tabletop, and you want the whole thing made of wood. I mean, is it a wood texture, like an image, or is it a wood made out of noises? Again, those two things make a difference. Otherwise, you just drop any noise on something, and because these are spatial noises, they will map properly. And I mean, it's a good opportunity to quickly show this with a very simple example. Here's my tabletop, and that's the limit of my ability to do these things. Let's go and get some wood. Oh, by the way, 2025.1. There are two new buttons here. One is this. This, you press it, and it will give you a list of all Redshift materials that exist in your asset browser. Just like that. And then you can search by name, by icon. You can make them bigger, smaller, and all that. The names. So you have immediate access to whatever your library contains. Extremely, extremely useful. So I'm going to go here and type wood. So wood shader. Let's put it here. It's downloading, I think. Didn't it download? Oh, wood. I'm going to drag it in there. What? Double click. There you go. There you have it. Double click. And this alone just gets applied. And depending on the UVs, the cube has a UV projection. If you want these to be sort of the same scale, you change this to something like cubic, right? And there you have it. You have your wood. And yeah, there you go. Wood. So it's not, anything special. Now, if this was an image, it depends. Again, maybe you have a different image for the sides, different image for the top, and so forth. But noises plus images, I mean, just go to the library. Maybe that's my advice. Go to the library. But if there's something specific about what you want to know, just let me know. Box modeling. What about box modeling? Box modeling, right? Let me show you some box modeling. Box, you name it box, and it's a box model. Done. Okay, I know what you mean, subdivision surface modeling. If there's something about box modeling you need to know, just let me know. Sharon, hello Sharon, says glTF equals artifacts, bring the model into substance, and you can export it out to AE with materials. Thank you very much. Would you like to be invited to one of our shows, Sharon? I say that sincerely. I'm sure you have things to tell us. But yeah, thank you all. This is a great example, Sharon and Dean and other people that are regular followers. We do appreciate when you help out, because I have one brain. It's big, you know. I have a big brain, but it's only one. Okay, so by working in parallel with your big brains, we can always get better information out for our users. So I appreciate it very much when, number one, you point out mistakes I do. Thank you so much about that. It makes it less embarrassing, and it allows me to do mistakes, right? Because I know I'm not giving people bad information because someone's going to correct me. And second, alternative ideas, right? It's all about skinning the cat or the cucumber or whatever in more than one way. So all your input and your experience is always appreciated. So thank you very much, Sharon, for that. Let's see. Yeah, I read this question about alternative way. What is that Red Giant plugin we have? If someone can remember, we do have a Red Giant plugin that allows you to bring 3D models inside After Effects. Because the question here is not about Cineware. It's not about getting the rendered image. It's about getting the actual models and manipulating it and so forth. So if someone remembers the name of that Red Giant plugin, I apologize. Anything that has to do with 2D is one dimension less than what my brain can handle. So, Linear Drift, how do you get a hold of me? Well, let me go to the banners and Twixer at Noseman GR, or you can go to the training forum that's in the page I showed in the housekeeping and ask the question, and you can refer to me directly. I read those spreadsheets that are populated by these questions. Let's see. Where are we? Oh, both. Frank, come on now. Do I appear a person with a small ego? Let's be serious here, right? And realistic. And my brain is ginormous. I have parts of it stored in other places of my studio, to be honest with you. So let's go. Let's see. Berkan, you're very welcome. In Blender, I saw a car animation where the wheels reacted automatically to the surface displacement, bouncing in holes. Is that possible? Yes, there are ways to do that. It's not something you can do it with a simulation, or you can do it with this Espresso. There are ways to do that, always depending on what you're trying to do. Some very successful attempts of that was using the old bullet and the suspension rigging and all that. But I have seen applications of that using Espresso and ray casting. There you go, ray casting. That was in another box in another brain, so it took some time to download. So ray casting and stuff like that. But we can maybe ask the question. Maybe I can concoct something up for one of the next Ask the Trainer. So go to the form and ask the question. Remind me that you asked me that question, because I have so much information in my brain, technical information. I forget of trivial stuff like, where do I know this? But oh, it's my mother. You know, where I get to that point sometimes. So let's see. Is there an easy way to load the use texture in the background of the UV editor? And the answer is actually yes. I don't know if it works with, I don't know if it works with Redshift. The easiest way to do it. So let's go here. Let's go to this material and see where the texture is. I don't know. Is there a texture somewhere here? Base color. Yeah, there is some sort of texture here. Now, can we read them from the asset browser? No. And I guess if you want to export this image as an image, you do need to go and do a save project with assets, and it will download it. But in any case, if you do want to load an image in your UV editor, you can go here and you say open texture, and this will open an image. Let's go and see if I can find an image. I'm on my other monitor here. I'm going to open up this, which is one of the things. So there you go. This is an image, and it adjusts whatever needs to be adjusted, and you can use it, and it's available. So if you make some space here, go textures. It's available now. It's loaded, right? So this is your image. The other one is when you have textures that have activated material. So if you open this up, this is Redshift now. Let's see if we can do this with standard render. When you create a new texture, you have to activate it essentially. Yeah. Let me think. It's with standard render. I don't even know if it's valuable now to do that with Redshift. But in any case, what I would suggest is just go here and load your texture, and then you have it here available for whenever you want. Just go here, textures, and there they are. So you can show UV map, which is built in, or you can show whatever else you loaded. Hopefully that is good enough for now. Let's see. Yeah, one general advice is that you don't need, you can follow any tutorial, and chances are we have the tools that you can replicate it. So if you find any tutorial that shows you how to model a face, I actually have a book called Stop Staring, quite old. It's 10, 15 years old, which is focused on that subject. How do you model faces and rig them and so forth? But I've never come around to do it. That's another story. Okay. Okay. Good question, Matteo. Super interested in new XRef or USD workflows. I don't use USD, so I can only talk about the new XRef. And basically, XRefs is quite an old technology in Cinema 4D. So, if in case you didn't know, you can have any sort of any object, any. Let's go and just create a scene here. Let's go and turn this off, and let's go models, example scenes, and let's get some sort of scene here. Something interesting. Right. Let's get this. I don't even know what this does. Right. So we have this scene, which does absolutely nothing. And do I have, yeah, I have cameras and lights and all that. Okay, let's take this scene here. And let's go and save it. Okay, so I'm going to save it in that folder as 123. I've just saved it as 123. Now, if you can have another scene, what you could do with this is you can go and create what's called an XRef. Right, you just add an XRef, and that XRef you can load that 123 scene, right? And it looks all the same, but essentially it's just a proxy. So you can go to this and you can open for edit, move something. Let's move one of these. Oh, this is something else. Mesh group. Okay. This is some sort of nodal setup. You go here and you update and you load, and it will bring in the new one. And the reason for this is when more than one people are working on a scene, or when different components need to be edited separately, you can bring them in as XRefs, and any edits you do them in the original file, and then you can update it, and it works. So what happened with 2025.1 is that the XRef system, because it's so old and many other technologies in Cinema 4D have been evolving, certain things broke, and it came to the radar of development lately that it was becoming very difficult. People are still using them. Jean Erduman, that does all these character animations, and many others, Fuchs and Vogel, and so forth. Great studios and artists have been using them, but you had to be very careful about how to use certain things about them. And yeah, a group of people jumped in to the technology and said, okay, let's try and fix everything that needs to be fixed, so it's up to date with the expectations, and that's what they did. So this is something that you can use it if you want, and now generally we can say it works and doesn't have any sort of dangerous implications. There was also an issue if you had XRefs on a network drive for certain security reasons, because it has to check if the file has updated, because it's supposed to be one of the supposed uses to work in a collaborative environment. So if anything, that it had to check to see, has the file changed, has the file that hasn't changed, and something in that sort of flavor. And when you had your XRefs on a network drive, it was very slow to work. So they took care of that as well. So now it's, I would say, a robust workflow tool. And yeah, we'll see how much we can feature it. Maybe we find someone that uses it in their production environment and come and give us a nice little presentation. Okay, back to this. Where are we? Trapcode Mirror. There you go. Thank you, Rune. So Trapcode Mirror allows you to load 3D objects. I don't know how it compares to Element, but it's our own way of doing that. So give it a shot. And Video Copilot, yeah, they make great tools. Andrew, if you're watching this, hi. It's been a while. So I just did that to show that I know Andrew Kramer. Great guy, by the way. So Geo could be Geo because it's geometry. True, could be Geo. Where are we? There we go. So Geo. Mirror, I think, is the old one. Geo is the new. Anyway, we have two tools. Yeah, how do you get hold of me on Twitter at NosemanGR? Oh, I didn't know that. After Effects beta native 3D objects. I haven't used it. I avoid using other betas other than Cinema 4D. Let's take a look. Okay. Is it possible to cache vertex maps? I use it to drive a matrix in a volume builder to animate paint on sphere. Works great on the render view, but not in the picture viewer. Well, caching vertex maps, I would say do use Alembic. It's nice and robust, but I don't know why it doesn't work in the picture viewer. Again, simple scene, send it to me, or these kind of things that, right, here's a bit of advice. If something seems like a bug, so if it works in the picture viewer and doesn't work in the, it works in the render view, but not in the picture viewer, that is a suspected bug. So please report these to Maxon's tech support, please. Okay. What else? Selection animate. Is it possible to use a bone? Bones are not objects, by the way. We have joints, and the drawn object between two joints is just what we call a bone. But drive soft selection to animate a balance spring used in mechanical watches. Okay, send me some sort of reference video so I can take a look at that. Okay. Yeah, Rocket Lasso does many things. You can make wheels turn automatically and so forth. A long time ago, my very good friend Chris Priddy, he did a great animation for Halo. And I had a peek in his file, and he used a lot of auto rotation, suspension, and all that. Brilliant animation he did for us, and did it all in Cinema 4D. Okay, let's see. You're very welcome. Answer. You're very welcome. Is there a way we can speak? Sorry, there is more to this and can be explained from front lawn. Oh, Sharon. Okay, I'll let you guys get the conversation running. Let's see. What time is it? Oh, we're hit the hour. I'm skipping some of the questions. I may go back to them. Um, is there a way to assign materials for the bevel edge generating from using Bevel Deformer? Oh my, that's a good one. I may have forgotten. Let's test it. So let's make a cube. Let's get a Bevel Deformer. Bevel. Why can I never find the bevel? Because I was right over it. That's why I can't find the Bevel Deformer. So let's extend this. And so we're doing this. We don't have. Yeah, I thought they added selections. A separate one here. Not, I would say, not with a cube. If it's a, if it's an editable object, what do we have here? We have this. That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know how to answer that. Maybe Dr. Sassi will have some insight on this. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I apologize for that. I can't think of something right now. Twixer, it's Twitter, but because it's called X now, I call it Twixer. So I cover both bases with one word without saying X, formerly known as Twitter. See, that's quite long. So find me on Twitter at NosemanGR. Let's quickly go here just to make sure that everyone knows that, and send me a direct message or use the form. We don't force people to use social media, but you can go to the online form and write your question, and maybe give us a link or something like that. Okay. Well, more questions coming in. Yeah, that was the answer. So if you don't have Twitter, you can use the form, please. And just remind me that you talk to me on the show. Alembic didn't work. That's interesting. Yeah, please send a file to me by some way. You can ask whatever you want. We can't promise any answers, but you can ask anything you want. Let's see. Yep, we're trying, Drake, to give as much information as possible. This was a mix of new and old and mainstream questions. That's why we want to do those shows next week, so that after people had the opportunity to download the software, take a look, and so forth, a better understanding of what's going on, plus the 2 tutorials for 2 of the features, plus the quick tip today about the render ranges. And again, if anyone is wondering, go to the render settings and bring up your big screen. I got it this time. Go to the output, and you will see we have a new mode here called custom frames. And you can use the syntax comma, so you can render specific frames, frame ranges 4 to 6, and frame ranges with a skip frame of 2 using a colon. And when files exist, it will ask you, do you want me to replace everything? Do you want me to skip the existing frames? So it's great if you're rendering something on a render farm and some frames were missed, then you can just render 3 or 4 frames just with one command from the render settings. Okay. Okay, I mean, let's get into this. So we are going to show, I'm going to do the 30,000 foot overview of what we have here. So the question is, for anyone that missed the label, what is the, quote, user-defined particle properties mentioned in the 2025.1 features? So actually, I paid Demis to ask this question so I can show off my immense understanding of everything. I'm going to make the screen bigger. Don't worry. I'm just closing things down. I think it's close. It has a close all, which I always forget every single time. So let's make this bigger. Now, very quickly, if you go to the project settings and go to simulation particles, what you'll see here is that we have this particle properties, the known properties we've had, which you can turn off to save on RAM, and particle custom properties. Now, this allows us to create any type of property for any of these types of data. Now, mind you, it does require a very specific way of working with this, but the design team is working very hard to find ways to make it even easier, because this is a complex topic anyway with custom attributes. But in any case, and you can create various attributes and use them in any way you want. For example, we know that if we create some sort of particle simulation, we have the age, and particles, their age grows by an amount of seconds as they get older, and we can use that to tell the particles, well, when your age, so condition, when your age is greater than 30 frames, then let's turn and go up in global space. So every particle that goes 30 frames now turns and goes up. Fantastic. Now, the properties we use to test all these things are the set properties that particles have, so alignment, angular velocity, color, and so forth. But what if you want your own property, something different? For example, how light something is. You want to do an effect with bubbles, how much pressure there is. Again, if you want to do something like that, what you can do now is you can go either from the emitters themselves. The emitters now have a very interesting way of creating custom properties. So in the output, the emitter now, the mesh emitter, can create a custom property, which is the UVW coordinate of the point it was emitted. And that means that throughout the particle's life, let's get a mesh. And I won't be able to show anything, but we're going to see these things. I'm just giving you a precursor as to why it's interesting. So let's go to emission and put the geometry here. Okay. Now, this, I'm going to make it editable for you to see. This sphere has a UVW configuration, okay? And these are values. The U is from 0 to 1, and the V is from 0 to 1. So let's assume that we're looking at, this point here. This point here has a very specific UVW coordinate, which is 0.6562. You can see it here, 0.6875. By using the mesh emitters custom property, output, and this requires to be sort of a vector, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go here. No, it needs to be a vector. Okay, and let's call it my UV. So let's go here again and just select my UV because I changed the name. This means that the particle now, throughout its life, carries with it an extra parameter. And what is great about this is that I can use this, for example, to colorize it with the image that this has. I think I'm going to do something for you. Just to close off the session without you seeing what I'm looking at, I'm going to bring up a scene, which I'm going to show you. Come on, custom attributes. Let's see. So this is a plane with my face on it, right? This will be a very good example of this, right? This is a plane that has a standard material, just a standard material, because I just wanted to see it. So I'm going to hide this, okay? And I'm telling the particles to have my UV custom attribute. And I'm just going to generate these particles, and it's going to create particles. There you go. Look at that. What I'm doing then is in the particles, in the shader that I'm shading the particles, what I'm doing is I'm taking the user data of my UV. I'm inverting it because there's Redshift, because Redshift works in other DCCs, and other DCCs have inverted U's and V's. in order to comply to our, you just need to invert, actually subtract the value of the y from 1. It's just, this could be a capsule. It doesn't really matter. But in any case, and what it does, it uses that value, remember, for that point, 0.6, and so forth, for each and every one of the particles that have this UVW coordinate, it goes to the image and finds the offset, all right? Finds the offset in that UV, and it uses the color it finds in this bitmap's equivalent offset. And what does it do? It creates my face. So custom attributes are great for this because you can store some sort of information on the particle, which you can use later on in so many other contexts. So these are particles now. Right? It doesn't matter how they move. I could store the position they were emitted from, so they can go for a ride and come back to the same position. Oh, come on. I didn't want to show you these today, but I'm going to show you anyway. Let's see if this is going to work. Let's see if I have something, and that's going to be the last thing I'm going to show. Land on text. Let's see if this is going to work. I'm going to throw it in here because these are just test files I've been prepping. So, and this uses various attributes. So this is emitting, and the particles end on the text. There you go. And this uses, what does this use? Oh, no, it just uses the particle nodes modifier here. So it uses a different method to do this, not custom attributes. But I could have used some sort of custom attribute if I was making them emit on an object and then come back to the object, because I can store those positions and then tell the particle, okay, now slowly go back home. Yeah, but this is the kind of stuff we're going to look at next week on the specific particle session. But you can see that now we can create our own modifiers based on data. I'm using the child text as data to put some random points on that and then tell the particles to slowly move to those random positions, right? So anyway, I'm done. No more questions. That's trademarked, Dean. That is very valuable. I'm gonna sell it as an NFT for, I don't know, 1 billion, trillion, quadrillion Google bitcoins. All right. I'm sure everyone can afford it. So yeah, I did my gym in the morning. I go at 6 o'clock. So Thompson, have fun. Nothing opens Max files other than Max itself. This applies to most software locked file formats. The ones that everyone opens are the open formats, the mesh formats, like DXF, FBX, and all those things. Because this is a general question. I always wanted to answer it because I didn't know that a couple of decades ago, and I found out. Why can't I get rid of that? Where was I? One sec. Oh, there you go. I clicked on the wrong little box. Sorry about that. I'm getting confused. So what happens is a Cinema 4D file, right? A Cinema 4D file, when we save this, it doesn't always save the raw data. So I'm going to rewind here. It doesn't store any particles. It stores that there is a basic emitter with these parameters. It stores there's a particle group. It stores I've got this with these parameters. So unless you have the Cinema 4D engine, so to speak, the core of Cinema 4D, no other software can open this, because this is what Cinema 4D does. It has these specific objects. And the same thing happens with Cinema 4D. If we try and open a Max file, it's going to have some sort of random data. It's like trying to play a JPEG in a music player. It doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. So that's the reason why. But we can export files. We have exceptional compatibility with all sorts of files. If you go to the preferences let me do this. If you go to the preferences and go down to import export, you will see all the formats we support. And these are import and export, so you'll see them all double, but it's quite a few of these file types. Okay. What else? Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us, because it was Noseman and friends, right? My invisible friends. Don't discount them, okay? They're helpful. They're always on my side. So me and my friends, thank you for watching the show. And next week, I expect at least all of you plus your friends and families to sit back and watch the new feature streams. So I'm looking for the buttons I need to press to close the show. By the way, that's why I'm going like this all the time. And yeah, please download 2025.1. Play around with it, enjoy the new features, watch any tutorials that come out, watch any presentations and shows, and watch the great video on the Maxon website. And I'll see you next week, hopefully, all of you and many more. We do have set things to show, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to answer questions. I always need an opportunity to show what a good person I am and how much stuff I know, right? Okay, then. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It was a pleasure hanging out with you. Sorry for any questions we couldn't get to, and there were quite a few. We'll try our best next time. And yeah, which button do I have to press here? Oh, it's this one over here. Toodaloo.